lose.
He really does. So he's rooting against Illinois and Michigan.
He roots against Illinois. Maybe it's a thing he has against orange and blue. I'm not sure.
That's right.
We can't confirm, but it's clear that anytime our school is on the doorstep of accomplishing anything consequential, he is rooting for the other team to win.
That's absolutely true.
That is confirmed.
And he's not here today.
Yeah.
What a shock.
Yeah.
Okay, well, a team that he has a lot of affection for is the Cleveland Browns. And it's starting to feel a little bit like a toxic relationship, in my opinion, CC, between Myles Garrett and the Cleveland Browns. We know that he had...
It's just starting to feel that way?
Well...
We ain't been there for a while now. He demanded a trade, and their response was, we'll make you the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. And he decided he was going to stay.
Mm-hmm. But so
just like begging for another chance after you done your person wrong, and then you're like, you know what? Maybe I can change him. Maybe they really mean it this time, but you know they never do. Yet you stay in this vicious cycle. You stay in what is an abusive relationship. That's Myles Garrett with the Cleveland Browns, because they have absolutely abused one of the best talents that we've seen in the NFL over the last decade. Myles Garrett has played in a grand total of, 3 playoff games? And he's in the conversation, or he will end his career in the conversation for the greatest defensive player who have ever lived.
Exactly.
That's where we're at.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about with the Cleveland Browns. It is the height of dysfunction when you talk about a franchise, and of course, this relationship is dysfunctional as well.
It really is. We've been going back and forth between Myles Garrett and the Browns. As you said, CC, he requested a trade a year ago, but then they were like, wait a minute, we've got some cash for you. He signed a 4-year, $160 million deal with the Browns last March. They were bad again this past year, going 5-12. He was awesome again this year. Defensive Player of the Year, single-season sack record holder. But we got that news that the Browns and Myles Garrett had agreed to that modified language in his contract, and we know that that makes it easier for Garrett and the Browns to eventually divorce. So we were wondering, could he be on the move? Well, their GM, Andrew Berry, was asked about this. Is Myles Garrett going to be traded? Here's what he had to say.
Myles is a career Brown. He is one of the faces of our organization. I think we've been very clear, both past and present, in terms of our feelings on that. So I understand all the questions. I'll be honest, I don't really want to waste a ton more breath on the topic.
Okay, that's Andrew Berry from the league meeting in Arizona. CC, you buying it? When he says that Myles Garrett is a career Brown, do you buy it?
Yeah, I do. That, from his purview, he's a career Brown, because guess what? Myles Garrett is a damn good football player, and let's not forget how everything went down in Cleveland this offseason with the power struggle between Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. And it really started last draft when Stefanski took Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round to be his guy, and Andrew Berry, the general manager, took Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round to be his guy. Shedeur showed better of the 2 rookie quarterbacks, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the other guy in Dylan Gabriel, the advocate that he had in the organization, Kevin Stefanski, is no longer there. So from the outside looking in, it's clear to me that Andrew Berry has to win games to justify his job security, and Myles Garrett goes a long ways to helping you do that. There's no sense in trading Myles Garrett and getting a whole bunch of draft picks for the next general manager. If you're Andrew Berry, you're trying to do everything that you can in order to position yourself to be more competitive than you have been in the previous years. So I actually believe Andrew Berry, what he said at the owners' meetings, that he has no intention of trading Myles Garrett this offseason.
That's a really good point. He is in win-now mode.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be in a better position to win games if you remove the best player from your football team.
Yeah. We got Myles Garrett, and we got 2 first-round draft picks. I'm going to find players that can help our team win now. Maybe there's a situation, maybe there's an opportunity for them to bring in another veteran to compete with Shedeur. Maybe they're going to see what Deshaun Watson has to play. The quarterback position seems to be the biggest riddle for the Cleveland Browns. They've got issues all over the roster, particularly on the offensive line as they've tried to retool that unit this offseason. They need more playmaking in their skill position core. But it's going to come down to whether or not the Cleveland Browns can get their offense jump-started. And a big part of that is going to be getting the best out of your quarterback room, and I don't know what the solution is to that end. if it's going to be Shedeur Sanders or if it's going to be a wild card.
Well, Andrew Berry, Browns GM, was also asked about adding another quarterback to his room, when he was at the league meeting in Arizona. Here's what he had to say about that prospect.
You always want to be flexible because you don't know how circumstances change or what opportunities come your way. Our lean would be if we do add someone to the quarterback room, it would be someone who's a younger player most likely. But I can't state that definitively because I don't know what the next couple of weeks will hold. Anyone that we bring in at any spot on the roster, our thought is that they are competing. They're competing to play. They have something that we like in their skill set, and our expectation would be for them to work harder.
So clearly he is looking to add some competition to that quarterback room with Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, and perhaps Deshaun Watson.
Did he say that he would lean younger?
I was just going to say, you said maybe a veteran guy in the mix there, but Andrew Berry saying that it's wholly realistic and that they might lean younger.
So are they a sneaky Ty Simpson team?
Perhaps.
You wouldn't think, but they do have 2 first-round draft picks, and there are a lot of people, including our very own Dan Orlovsky, that have a high opinion of Ty Simpson.
Right.
Dan thinks that Ty is quarterback number 1 in this draft over Francisco Mendoza. Do the Cleveland Browns brass and Andrew Berry in particular share that belief? And if so, is that the direction that they decide they're going to lean to? Because everything that they've done this offseason seems like they're laying the groundwork to make the offense user-friendly for a young quarterback. When you go out in free agency and you get Zion Johnson, when you trade for Titus Howard, when you add Elton Jenkins from the Green Bay Packers, you are fortifying the offensive line in order to help your young quarterback. Now, we all assumed that was Dillon Gabriel and or Shedeur Sanders. Could there be a young quarterback behind door number 3? I think that remains to be seen, and that's what's going to make what happens in the draft late April fascinating as far as the Cleveland Browns are concerned.
So I am all for them adding competition to that room because you need to figure that riddle out if you want to keep your jobs and if you want to win games. Also, Andrew Berry also needs to win games because if they don't, if it's another lost season for Myles Garrett, you just got more problems if you do end up keeping your job. But CeCe, so much of the drama that happened last year was that people were clamoring for Shedeur Sanders, and they refused to really define who was going to be QB1, make Shedeur the guy. They tried out Dillon Gabriel first. Even if they add to that room to avoid all that drama, do you think they should just name Shedeur QB1, or do you think he's still in a position where he needs to compete for it, Andrew?
Yeah, I think he's still in prove-it mode. I think there are things that you saw last year that you like, but it's certainly a grade of incomplete. And by no means is he entitled to anything, especially as a 5th-round draft pick. So I would say that Shedeur has more to prove in terms of being the unquestioned full-time starter, but I think he goes into the quarterback competition in pole position. I think he's earned that this offseason. Now, we'll see how Deshaun Watson factors in. We'll see what they think of Dillon Gabriel. We'll see if they add a quarterback early in the draft. There are a lot of unknowns as far as Cleveland's plans at the quarterback position, but make no mistake about it, their inability to stabilize that position is what has led to them being so inconsistent. And until they figure that out, that franchise has no hope of being competitive in the AFC North or being competitive in the conference overall.
Death, taxes, and the Browns trying to figure out their quarterback situation. Feels like deja vu.
Water is wet.
Water is wet. Well, we talked about Myles Garrett and the Browns and the toxic relationship that they have, them going back and forth. We've also seen that with Max Crosby and the Raiders. We know the fallout that happened with the nullified trade in Baltimore. But which team is going to regret that fallout more? That